when I move to the next set of example trees to do traversals, I'm going to assume you're actually able to do such traversals tracing yourself. So I'm going to trace the next example trees in a slightly faster pace. So if you really don't feel comfortable just yet about the traversals, I would suggest you pause the video and make sure you can really master whatever I have been doing in front of you before you move on. Alright, you can now pause the video if you want to. Otherwise, follow me. Alrighty, so let's now go on to the second example tree, which is the arithmetic example tree. I think this one will be actually more challenging to do, but of course, that's why I try to do the simple ones first, and then we can move on to the more complicated one. For the pre-order and also post-order, I would suggest, why don't you pause the video now and write down exactly what will be the pre-order sequence versus post-order sequence generated by doing the traversal. And once we actually resume, I'm going to tell you what the answers are. And then I can highlight certain parts, and then we can move on to in order. You can now pause the video and do the pre-order and also post-order. Alrighty, so you may have some answer. So let's now take a look. So this will be my answer, which should be correct for the pre-order. It's going to be minus, okay, let me just use a little bit thinner. Minus divide, multiply, plus 3, 1, 3, plus minus 9, 5, 2, and then plus multiply 3, minus 7, 4, and 6. Maybe that's your answer. Let's take a look. So let's now try to annotate this a little bit, and I'll move on to the post order. You can think about this minus over here is really the sequence generated from pre-order traversing this part over here, right? The root. And then this part over here, all the way to before the next plus over here, this part over here is really the pre-order traverse result from this first subtree, or the left subtree. And this part over here is really the result starting from the plus. This part over here, let me try to see if I can. Okay, this part here is really the pre-order result from this particular subtree over here, right? That'll be okay. All right. Let's now just double check. You can see the minus over here, and then what about this part over here? It's going to be the divide, and then multiply plus 3, 1, 3, which is this part over here. We can just try to subdivide once more. This part over here, okay, you can see multiply plus 3, 1, 3. This is the part, right? Followed by the pre-order traversal for the second child nodes over here. So that'll be plus minus 9, 5, 2. Hopefully you'll see what I'm doing here, right? And then what about this part over here? I'm going to use purple. It's going to be the plus over here, right? And followed by the pre-order traversal for this subtree over here. And it's going to be all the way to 4, right? This will be the pre-order for the first child nodes, followed by the pre-order traversal for the second child node, or subtree. Okay, it would be this part over here, right? You can see I'm just being consistent with how I trace it together with you before, but now I just try to ignore the intermediate steps. Of course, that will be something up to you. If you got any trouble coming up with this sequence over here, you reach out to me. Okay, so that's the final answer. So starting with this. Just make sure it's more readable for you, and then I can move on to the post order. All right, you can now feel free to pause the video if you haven't done the exercises for the post order before you compare with my answer. Alrighty, let's now see the answer for the post order on the same tree. Let's see for this one, and this one we're gonna do the children nodes first. So it's going to be 3, 1 plus 3 multiply 9, 5 minus plus, minus 9, 5 minus 2 plus divide, and also 3, 7, 4 minus multiply 6 plus minus. Is that your answer? Well, let's take a look. And I'll try to use the same color. So we got minus over here, that's the root. That will appear the last over here. And it will be the post-order traversal on the first subtree. The post-order. Okay, so this part over here is going to be, let me see, it's going to be all the way to divide, right? It's going to be until here. And this part over here is going to be the pink, right? So let's say this part over here is the second subtree. That should really correspond to the result over here. And specifically, you can see where the root is. You can see the root for this one here is plus. That will appear as last in the sequence over here. And also the root for the first child node, for this first subtree is divide. So that'll be over here. Right, let's do maybe a little bit more subdividing, because to me, post order is slightly trickier to get right. So let's now just try to do a little bit more. And you can see for this one here, the first subtree is over here, right? So this one should really correspond to all the way to divide, right? You can see the divide, all the way to the multiply. Okay, you can see this one here is a multiply, which is the root over here. And this will be the right subtree over here. In that case, it will be this part over here. Right, that's a post-order result. And you can see the root is exactly over here. And you can now check very easily, what about the post-order for this? It will be 3, 1, 3, 1 plus, 3, 1 plus. What about the right subtree? That'll be just 3. So that's actually right. And what about for this one over here? This one here, 9, 5 minus, 9, 5 minus, and then the 2, right? It's actually right. And what about this part over here, right? Let's do the similar exercise, right? Just for completeness, right? For this one here, let's try. It's going to be the subtree over here, right? In which case we got multiply as the root. So it will be all the way until over here. So this will be multiply over here. So let's check. 3, 7, 4 minus. 3, 7, 4 minus. Good. Finally, what will be the result for post order on this subtree, the second subtree? That will be just 6. Right? So how much should you really practice? You want to be able to practice to the extent that you will be able to come up with a sequence like how I did it when I show you the solution. And then you definitely want to also, the way to double check about the result is how I try to annotate the sequence and try to make the correspondence back to the original tree. So that would be the kind of exercise you really have to spend time on. If you got any trouble doing this, reach out to me as soon as possible. I'm pretty sure, most likely, and you should be assessed about this in the written test or exam later. Okay, let's now do the in-order traversal. It's going to be very similar. So we just remember, I didn't really write it down. And for the in-order traversal, that's going to be the only exercise we do, but it's going to be very similar to the pre-order and also post-order. Let me just remind you very quickly about the sequence of recursion that we should do. We should really say in order on the left child, left subtree, followed by the parents, followed by the in order on the right subtree. So that's really the principle you should have already memorized, right? So let me just put it down over here. And I would suggest we do similar exercises before. I don't really have to trace like this, right? That will take too much time. That's something I think you should really practice on your own. I already have done enough exercises together with you to this detail. Why don't you pause the video now and tell me what a sequence would be generated from the in-order traversal on this binary tree. You can pause the video now. Assuming that you already got your answer on a piece of paper, let's now compare the answer. Right? In some way, the in-order traversal should be more straightforward. Well, let's see. Okay, so it should be 3 plus 1 multiply 3 divided by 9 minus 5 plus 2 minus 3 multiply 7 minus 4 plus 6. And there's really no parentheses over here. However, maybe there's something I'll just mention briefly. If we got time later, I can elaborate on this, maybe in the lecture or in the Q&A. Somehow the way you form the subtree suggests about the order of evaluation, meaning that the divide should be applied to its left subtree and right subtree, something like that, until here, right? So that means this part must be done first before this part must be evaluated first, and this part must be evaluated first before you can do the division. That's kind of the implicit order of evaluation. But let's not talk too much about that. Let's now focus just on the generated sequence. Right, let's now do some quick annotation. So we got over here, so that'll be the minus. Because it's in order, so that should be somewhere in the middle. Right, so I think it should be over here. Right, minus. All right, there's a minus. Meaning that we got the in order traversal on the left subtree, right? The left subtree over here. Oh, let me just try to draw better for the triangle, if I may. So this part over here is the in order traversal from the left subtree. And this part over here is the in order traversal on the right subtree over here, right? This part over here. And let's try to annotate. Okay, so where is the root? That should be exactly over here, right? And where is the root? Is exactly the plus over here, so it's going to be the plus. Okay. Oh, you know what? Let me be consistent with the color. That should be pink. Consistency is really important. Okay, plus over here, and then let's subdivide. We're gonna get the external. We're gonna the left subtree over here, and also the right subtree over here. Right. Let's now try to subdivide them. So this will be the in order result for the left subtree, and this will be the in order traversal for the right subtree. That's now it's small enough so we can check it directly. Let me just do one more. You can see here it will be the multiply the root over here, and also this will be the plus the root, which will be over here, right? Let's now check the subtree very quickly. In order for this one here, it should be 3 plus 1. 3 plus 1. In order for external node, should be the base case. So that's 3. What about in order traversal for this part here? That should be 9 minus 5. 9 minus 5. Okay, right subtree is 2. Awesome, right? And for completeness, let me just finish this part over here so you can also go over with me. This will be the left subtree over here. So that will be this part over here. And this will be the right subtree, and this part over here. Right, let's double check very quickly. This part over here is going to be, you can see the root is over here. The root is actually the multiply over here. Okay, let me just use a circle to say there's a root. And you can see the left subtree is external, so just 3. And the right subtree is 7 minus 4. 7 minus 4. And then we got 6, the base case over here. Alright, that's about the complete tracing for the 3 kinds of tree traversals. You can see the principles themselves are very simply defined. However, that's good. Simplicity is always good. However, when you really do the actual exercises on different example tree of different complexities, you really want to make sure you practice. So what I would suggest is make sure you can at least do the exercise, do the exercise on your own on the 2 example trees I provided, and find some other trees to really do the in order, pre-order, and also post-order traversals. That would be my suggestion. All right, so let's now move on to the next lecture about binary search tree.